But have you had experiences where you're actually coming into a hospital situation and scrambling to get signatures done before someone is incapacitated or gone?
We had one recently where the notary drove to San Francisco, was in the parking lot when the person passed away. We never were able to get that person to sign. So they had spent months working with their estate planning attorney. They knew this was coming, but they didn't really know how quickly. And it's a tragedy at that point. And because then they have to go through probate and all the complications. And it's sad because they did the work, but it just didn't get across the finish line.
Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. And welcome back to another episode of the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in digital age. My guest today, I'm super excited, is Stephanie Rosso. And Stephanie, you are one of the co-founders, co-owners of the Best Notary, which is located in California, but you are also, for people are here, a fiduciary, or working towards becoming a fiduciary. So welcome to the show, and please share with the audience what got you here today.
Thank you, Nikki. It's wonderful to be here. I think I got here because I enjoy having difficult conversations. I am a psychologist and have worked with families for over 20 years. To be able to talk about trauma, to be able to talk about grief, and to be able to have the difficult conversations that we need to have. And we need to have those in order to prepare our estate plans. We need to be able to have them before people pass away, after people pass away. So I'm excited to talk with you because you're doing such amazing work. And I think we have a lot of synergies. And so I think we can have a really great conversation. I wear many hats. I think you do as well. And we need to destigmatize talking about death and dying and talk to our families and friends about it because most people avoid it.
Now, where you and I sit, we are really in that pre-planning phase. Or I mean, ideally, right? We really are advocates for having these difficult, what I say, the dare to have conversations. And we're looking to have them way earlier on than, that deathbed estate planning. Like, don't
Not the
wait.
time to do it.
Not the way to do it. Have you had experiences where you're actually coming into a hospital situation and scrambling to get signatures done before someone is incapacitated or gone?
We absolutely have. So we work with estate planning attorneys to help them outsource their document execution. So we do the notarization, providing of witnesses, all the administrative stuff, so they don't have to get the paper cuts, right? They can focus on their business. Most of the time, it is families who are planning ahead, but sometimes, often, we get this call and they say, this needs to get signed now. And we have had a number of occasions. We had one recently where the notary drove to San Francisco, was in the parking lot when the person passed away.
That's not uncommon.
Yeah, it's not. We also have had other situations where the person basically was in a coma. We had the wife sign, but the person was alive, but then they kind of fell asleep and didn't wake up again for a number of days. And so we never were able to get that person to sign. So they had spent months working with their estate planning attorney. They knew this was coming, but they didn't really know how quickly. And it's a tragedy at that point. And because then they have to go through probate and all the complications. And it's sad because they did the work, but it just didn't get across the finish line.
And just for and I'm going to jump in because for our listeners, from an educational standpoint, what people don't understand is there's a step-by-step process, right? So you're going to think about, thinking about doing a will. step one. And then you're deciding on who's going to be in the will, who's going to be the executor, who's going to actually manage it when the time comes, step two. But then you're going to draft it, right? So that's the point where you're saying like, okay, you're going to have an estate attorney, an elder care attorney, they're going to draft the documents. But then that's the step, which is where the best notary comes in, which is you need to execute these documents. They don't mean anything if they're not processed. So from an educational standpoint, what does it mean to have, why is it so important to have a notary or required to have a notary? And what does it actually mean to have a notary involved?
So you not only need to have a notary, but in most states you need to have two witnesses on top of the notary who they witness that they saw those documents get signed by the signer, two people signing, and then the notary notarizes those witnesses. So we have many times where we're sending three people out to an appointment. So if you draft it and it's not signed, it's not legal, it's not official, it doesn't work. So you do need to go through those steps. In addition to that, once you get them signed, you actually need to fund your trust.
If we're talking about a trust.
Right. So if you have a trust, that means that you have a house, right? Let's say you have a house, that the deed needs to actually be transferred into the trust. It's one of the estate. Oh, it's more paperwork. It's more right. So and then if you have a trust, you need to transfer all of your bank accounts into the trust. You have to transfer all of your assets into the trust. Otherwise, you did all of that. Even if you got it notarized, you did all of that, and you're still going to have to go through probate, at least here in California. So wills generally need to be witnessed by multiple people, and this all depends on the state. But many of the other documents in an estate plan, which can be anywhere from 10, we've seen up to 24 documents.
24 documents. I'm blown away. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting because some people are like, oh, I have a will. I'm like, but so what are some of those other documents? 24 of them? 24.
24. Yes. So that's when things are a little more complicated, right? So when there's special needs trusts, because you have a child who has special needs and they need their assets protected in a particular kind of way, you need a power of attorney, right? Who has the authorization to make decisions on your behalf before or after you pass away, right? Sometimes you need someone to pay your bills before you pass away because you're incapacitated. So a power of attorney everyone needs a power of attorney. Even if you don't have a trust, because many people say, well, I don't have kids, I don't have assets, I don't need a full trust. Fine. But you do need a power of attorney because if you suddenly get ill, who is making your healthcare decisions, right?
So true power of attorneys, right? Right. So there's the medical proxy power of attorney, and then there's the financial power of attorney, and I think people are either they're not familiar with the terminology of it, and that there's two separate things, and the cat's there. The cat is more than welcome.
So Max will tell you also need to include your pets in your trust and have, he has a video on YouTube that he explains the importance of pet trusts. So you need to make sure who's going to take care of the pets, right? And so who is going to take care of you if you become incapacitated? Who is allowed? So there's a HIPAA release, right? Who is allowed to have conversations with your doctors? There are many. Who is going to take care of your children, right? So there are
this. I think
separate documents.
People I talk to every day, I'm talking to young families who have wealth managers. Like, these aren't people without means. And they just, I don't have anything. I'm like, what do you mean you have nothing? Like, what? You have a house, you have kids,
you have a house,
you have nothing.
You probably have life insurance, you have these things, and what happens to them? And so if you pass away without these things and you have to go through probate, at least here in California, it can take 2 years, a lot of stress. The state takes a portion of things. The state makes decisions about who gets what. Is that what you want your family to be going through as they're grieving?
Grieving. So
It
here's the
is not the
psychology behind
time to be going through this. It's really, it's painful. And so we avoid it, and understandably. Who wants to talk about death, taxes? Like those are the last things we want to
All
talk
right, I'm
about.
weird. I do like talking about that stuff. I do.
Understood.
I just, you know
Understood.
why? Because it's like I don't want to put my head in the sand about it.
Right.
I want to have the conversations. So I can live, it's like I can live more fully. So, as a psychologist, which is fascinating that you aren't just in the notary business and now moving into fiduciary, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as a psychologist, why are people so avoidant of this conversation and doing the administrative paperwork to
So
completion?
I Right.
To
We
com-
have many people who've paid 5, 6 grand to their attorney, and then we are chasing them for months to get it signed. It becomes real, it becomes official, right? So it's
becomes
also
legally binding. If
it
without it,
becomes legally binding.
I mean, I need people to understand, like, you decided, you spent time, right? It's like building a house. You've built the house. You already paid for all the closing costs.
Yeah.
you just
You just
you
never moved
just
in.
signed.
You just like lived in a tent on the lawn instead. You're like, it's a lovely house. I'll just sit here on the lawn. That's fine.
Just sign it. And you got
Right.
the keys are right there. Just sign it. Because
Right there.
otherwise, your family's all that effort and time and thought is going to just go to the court system. It's just going to get thrown into the court system.
Right. But culturally, for many people, if we talk about death, we're bringing it into existence and we're going to rush its process somehow. That if we talk about it, it makes it real, but it also makes it imminent, and that we are more likely to die very quickly and soon, which is not the case for in my belief. I understand that that's people's belief and taboo and tradition, and it makes other people uncomfortable. I remember when my grandfather passed away. My grandmother started, and she at the time was like 70. She was 75. She started talking about, you're going to get this and you're going to get that, and I'm going to put stickers on things.
Great.
And she died at 96, right? But so for 20 years, she was like, every time you saw her, okay, so do you want this thing or do you want that thing? And it normalized it in a lot of ways, but it's still also sad. Like talking about losing her, it also is then talking about losing my grandfather, and it's hard to have these conversations. It's
But when she
uncomfortable,
did
and
pass,
we don't like to. Mhm.
sorry, I'm jumping in, but when she did finally pass, though, the fact that she was so okay with it, not that you didn't miss her, but you weren't dealing with the what ifs or
We were very clear. My grandparents signed documents in the 80s about do not have me on life support, do not do this, that, and the other. And so when my grandfather deteriorated, he had Alzheimer's, and he deteriorated. At one point, he was on a feeding tube, and there was a question about what do we do about this? And we were all very clear. It's hard, but you then aren't second guessing yourself. I remember this day, I was sitting with this woman and her husband. It was pouring rain. It was right before Christmas, and we were getting their documents completed. And she said to me, I'm doing this now, so when the time comes, my daughter doesn't have to second guess or feel guilty about the decisions that she made. Now, you have to keep in mind, I had lost my mom like 9 months earlier. And I looked at her and I said, that is the most loving and beautiful thing you could do for her. Because if you're sick, it is so hard to know, am I making the right decision? What would she want? And if you are crystal clear in that, as hard as that decision is, you don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to have the like what ifs, should I have, the all the things that go in the back of your mind. You can focus on, I love my mom. I want to do right by her.
Right.
I want to honor her wishes and I want to say goodbye to her, as opposed to I'm not sure what to do. That's a terrible place to be.
Especially in that moment of crisis.
Yeah.
And I just want to emphasize again, we say the documents. People, again, I don't think they understand the complexity when we say it's a stack of documents.
Oh,
Now,
sometimes like 500 pages.
okay, now,
So,
okay, granted, California and New York are probably the most complicated states. Agreed?
and it depends on how many assets people have and circumstances. So
Fair enough.
it
At
can be
minimum,
very simple.
right?
Yeah,
So
it
at
can be
minimum,
very
so
simple.
if California and New
Yeah.
York are the most complicated estate administrative states, which one, let's call it, which one are the simplest ones? Or least?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. It really depends on the circumstances, right, of the family and if they have kids or not and if they have special circumstances. But so I'm not sure exactly which states are
Less,
more
less,
streamlined. Yeah.
less
Yeah.
document driven.
Yeah. So it can be, as I said, 10 documents and each one being 1 to 15 pages, right? Some of them are a single page. They're not, so by the time someone, because I don't want to scare people off, by the time they actually sign them, they understand what they are. And each one has its purpose and they fit together like a puzzle. And that's why you need, I think, a good estate planning attorney to help you think through the options.
And then, so your company supports the estate planners.
Yep. Yep.
And so because the attorneys, they will draft the documents, but they are not notaries necessarily.
So some of them are, and some of them have paralegals in the office. But what we do is be able to help estate planning attorneys see clients across the entire state because it's not always that simple and easy to go into the office of the estate planning attorney, right? So we can send someone else to the home. I've joked that we could do it at a soccer game. No one has ever taken me up on that. But we also can do many of the documents through remote online notarization. And so we meet on Zoom. So we have done signings. There was a couple who was sailing around the world. They got into port. They got on Zoom. They signed their documents. We've had situations where one brother is in Amsterdam, one's in San Francisco, and then one was a hermit who lived out in Carmel Valley. He had no cell phone, he had no internet, he had no email address, so we sent someone in person to him. So it allows so many estate planning attorneys do it in the office, and we're trying to help them think about letting go of the office and being able to serve more families. Because if you're only serving people who live within a 15-20 minute drive, you're really limiting who you can see. And really everyone needs some sort of plan. So this helps democratize who can get access.
And this is also because your system is a remote service, you provide it for all 50 states,
We do.
international as well?
So if someone has United States documents, for example, I said the person who is in Amsterdam, they can get on Zoom. So the attorney is in the US and the person is living other places, we can do that.
So
Yeah.
you're able to do it. The idea is not to overwhelm people, but at the same time is to let them know that dead is not dead. Do not, if I hear that comment one more time, dead is dead, they'll figure it out. It won't, it's just a festering wound that just won't heal. So
Yeah.
as we're all trying to have these conversations early on and also early on because it does take time. This is not a quick checklist to do. So then let me just lean into, so that's talking about the notary and the importance of having a notary sign all these important documentations. But now you're leaning into not an enhanced service called fiduciary. So what is that, and how can people, who would be your ideal client for that service?
Yeah. So when someone passes away, there is a lot of work that needs to happen, right? There may be a house that needs to be sold. There may be assets that need to be split. There are tax returns that need to happen. There's things that need to happen, and sometimes there are people that don't have someone who could do that for them, or they don't want to burden their family and friends, or um, their children have their own stressors or they live out of state. And so instead of having someone who's a family friend or within execute on your documents, you can have a fiduciary who makes those decisions and helps finalize things. So a fiduciary can also be before someone passes away. So you name someone in your power of attorney who can make decisions for you. And part of that is if you become incapacitated, right, you're still alive, but you need someone to decide, am I getting the right medical care? Am I living in a good facility? Do I have everything I need? So it's really a trusted advisor that is outside of the family. I think there are situations where, let's say, you have a child with special needs, and this, of course, is part of my background. The sibling oftentimes feels like they have to defend, protect, or they feel like their sibling got a lot of the attention and they didn't get as much. It can be really hard for the sibling of someone with special needs. I actually used to run a group for kids who were siblings, right? Because they had their own particular challenges. So if you can imagine, after the parents pass away, if that sibling then is responsible for their housing and making sure that their assets are taken care of and that they have socks and all the things, that puts them in a caregiver role that may make it hard for them to be a sibling. And it maybe they don't even get along, right? And so then you've got stress and anger. It can be very wise to have someone who is a neutral third party who's outside, who is caring but is not kind of wrapped up in the family conflict and drama, to be able to play that role, right? Because I think it can be really helpful for families to be able to. It gets complicated when you involve money,
Yeah,
right? Like,
well, money, yeah, money and kids and property and things. The,
so
the
a
love goes out the
fiduciary,
window, and everybody
right?
is, as you're speaking, you're talking about special needs, but I would think that the fiduciary services would also be very important for this.
Absolutely.
You know where I'm going, right?
I know.
The
Sorry.
elder orphans. I'm trying to like the
Yeah.
solo agers and elder orphans, right? So there's this new like solo agers. They have assets by choice. They have decided to live a very independent life, but now that they're getting to the point in their life, is like who's going to offboard, who's going to shut down. So same thing with the elder orphans, right? That they've maybe outlived their family unit. So is this also a use case for
Absolutely.
so please share.
Absolutely. Right. So they do have a house, they do have assets. Who's going to take care of that? And if they don't name anyone, or they name someone who's not really able to,
Trustworthy?
then right, not trustworthy, right? If they name no one, then it will go to the court and the court will appoint someone.
Do the nursing homes do they act as fiduciaries? That just popped in my head. So how would a facility, long-term care facility, nursing home, whatever, takes on somebody who's has no more family, and but they have full access to their financials? Like, how does that work?
Well, I'm still a student.
Okay.
Um,
Not
so,
to put you on the spot
um,
here, I'm just wondering if
yeah,
I'm a 70-year-old solo
right.
ager, been very successful in my life, and I'm also a planner, so I want to say, for the next 25 years, I want to make sure that my estate goes to, the I have a trust. I want to make sure that it is well managed. Um, and if I need to go into a facility, that they are only limited to a certain
Right. They wouldn't have access to all of your assets. If you have a trust, someone is named.
a
But who?
fiduciary. So would it be a
It,
fiduciary
it
then
could
named?
it could be a fiduciary. So that's where the estate planning attorney helps. This is where you need some advice. But someone is named. The question is, who is named? Are they able to really know what to do in that situation? It could be a fiduciary, and a fiduciary is trained, equipped, is part of an ecosystem of other people, and is held by laws and ethics and oversight in a different way, right? As opposed to someone who is named and has no idea how to handle all of this. Because it can get complicated. So if they're in a facility of some sort, the facility doesn't have access to all of their assets. They get paid
Oh,
for
you would hope not.
right. They get paid for them staying there, but that doesn't mean everything else, right? They can't sell their house. They can't, if they start running out of funds, what happens? And let's say they do have a house. What do you do then? There are decisions that need to be made, and so there are, elder orphans who need someone to look after them, and it's not just about money. It is
Quality of life.
partly about money, but it's really not. It's about, are you in a place that is taking good care of you and is looking out for you and advocating and making sure that you're getting to medical appointments and right thinking through what you need. So there's the money aspect, but there's also the health aspect and making sure that, is this place, providing you with emotional support and care and socialization? Or are they just kind of leaving you? Uh,
I know
what
there's a
came to
few
mind was,
words because you and I
I
have
know,
been through
like, I
this.
don't want to say
Yeah,
that.
there's a few words that we want to
Yeah,
be kind, respectful enough of that you're getting the proper care that
right,
you expected to receive when you were of
right,
sound mind.
right.
So
Because you're
let's go
really
back.
vulnerable at that point. You're really, really
Beyond
vulnerable.
vulnerable. Yep. And
Yeah,
people do take advantage. So sorry, let me
yes.
go back to fiduciary 101. So I'm throwing the word out and I probably should have said, Stephanie, can you tell us what the mean fiduciary? Because for some people, just like thanatology, right? I talk about how I'm a digital thanatologist, and most people don't realize that a thanatology is someone who talks about death and dying. So, as a fiduciary, what is fiduciary, and what do they do?
So, and I'll be clear, a professional fiduciary, because you can name someone. I could name you as my fiduciary, right? But that doesn't mean that you are a professional fiduciary. So that you have a background and training and licensure, and that you're getting paid for providing that service. So a professional fiduciary, and here in California we have a licensing and a certification and continuing ed. And my understanding is that it's not as regulated in other states, so that's very interesting. It's a state by state kind of thing. But a professional fiduciary is someone who is going to help make financial, legal decisions on someone's behalf, right? And it could be before they pass away or after they pass away. That they are named in, well, sometimes they're not even named, they get assigned by the court, but, right, because that can happen, that someone doesn't have someone, so they get assigned by the court, that they are the one who can legally make decisions on someone's behalf.
But the word fiduciary, it's like your fiduciary duties. That the definition,
Mhm.
I don't want to botch it up, but it is that they're doing right by you.
Absolutely.
I want to get the Webster's version of what is a
Okay, we
fiduciary.
might have to
I
look it
know,
up.
but it
Right.
basically is that you are doing like ethically,
Your,
like the word
yeah,
ethical is in the word fiduciary. What other word would
your
you throw in there?
your first guiding principle is to do right by the person, right? So if you're selling their house, you want to make sure that you get the best price for it. So this means that I can't sell it to my best friend for a really good deal, right? My best friend may be looking for a house and she'd really like it, but I would not be doing right by the person, because my first order of business is to be ethical, which is to and be responsible to get to sell that house at a reasonable market rate and do what I can to make sure that they get the most out of their assets, right? So it's a protective role in certain ways, right? It's a role of making sure that and in some ways protective of them. Like, okay, you're kind of not at full capacity, and people are taking advantage of you, right? And they're selling you things, or you're spending lots of money on things. So it is looking out for the best interests of your client and making sure that you or no one else is taking advantage of them. There's a terrible movie, I think, who it's called I Care Too Much. It's like the opposite. It's the what
Of
goes
someone
wrong is
who took
right.
advantage
What
of.
goes, yeah,
That
right.
wasn't the
Because
nursing home
you
movie, was it?
no, it's a different movie. This is a fictional movie of a
Okay.
woman who like becomes basically the fiduciary and takes all of the assets for herself and
Oh,
right
but that
takes.
happens. That's not
Oh, it
also
does.
where
Right.
again, when we talk about choosing your designated, your no love and trust people, when we talk about the My Final Playbook, we're always talking about your no love and trust. These are people that know you, you trust them, and there's a sense of commitment to each other, because when money comes into play, some people get greedy and they don't do what's
I
right
heard
ethically.
I have heard some crazy stories about there's a person here locally who volunteers to walk dogs for the elderly so that they will be put in the will.
Oh, oh, is that like I'll walk your dog if you put me in the will, or is it that they just
Kind of,
start building a
yeah.
relationship
Right.
thinking
But but doing it in a way to
manipulate? Yeah.
you don't need to pay me anything now, but if you really care about me when you pass, you'll include me, and there was someone who like elders sometimes are very vulnerable. They're sometimes very lonely. My poor grandmother, sharp as a, she was so like, she didn't start declining cognitively until she was like 93, 92. But at some point, she was convinced that she was winning a car. She just needed to send them some cash. She knew everyone in town. She went to the bank and she told them, I'm getting this cash because I'm getting this car. And they said, Dottie, don't do it. She's like, no, but they were so nice, such nice gentlemen. They kept calling me and I chatted with them. And they said, don't do this. And she's like, it's my money.
Oh,
Right? So she could get a little feisty. And then she went to the post office, and because she knows everyone, right? She tells the post office person, I'm so excited, I'm getting, and they said, don't do this. Don't do this. And that was a couple $100, like, not the end of the
yeah.
world in certain ways. But people can be really vulnerable as they get older and they're lonely, and people can take advantage of them. So a fiduciary is ethically, legally bound to look out for their best interests and to have a protective role in certain ways and make sure that they have what they need and that someone is not not taking advantage of them. And I think we're going to need more and more of that as we have this huge aging population and we have people who don't have close family members. They're at a very vulnerable time. And so we want to take care of them and for them to have dignity at the end of their life, right? And have some quality of life. And so it's good to have someone who's looking out for them. And there are rules about how much you can charge and accounting that needs to happen. It is all very regulated and transparent.
In the state of
So
in the state of California right now.
in the state of California, it's very transparent, and you have to keep separate accounts and be very clear of every dime that is spent, so that there's never any question.
This is just an awesome conversation. I know you and I can just keep going on because the stories are endless, but both of us are passionate about having people having these difficult conversations early, mainly because they take time, right? Just because you start the conversation doesn't mean a decision's made. And once you make the decision to actually find someone to do the documentation, draft the documentation, sign the documentation, execute the document, file it, there are multiple steps. So with that, knowing what we know today, what are one or two takeaways that our listeners can do to feel more empowered and take actionable steps?
I think it's starting to have the conversations, right? It's at the dinner table asking people, do you have an estate plan? Do you have things set up? It's uncomfortable conversations, but starting to have those conversations, starting to plan early, and noticing, ooh, this is a particular topic that's really difficult. I'm going to need to spend a little bit more time here, right? And this is going to need maybe some help having this conversation. We talk about the sandwich generation. I call it the panini generation, right? It is people are taking care of their parents, taking care of their kids. It's panini because it's squished. It's hot, it's messy, there's never enough cheese. There are a lot of people who are in this position of trying to take care of everyone, right? So first of all, take care of yourself and don't burn out. And start to think about what you need and having the conversations with your parents, and start normalizing having these conversations, because it is a process and it's not one and done. Right? So every couple of years, right? I've had many people say, oh, I have a will, I've had it in place for 30 years. And it's like, well,
Nope.
guess what? Things have changed, right? Things have changed. And so it's a regular practice, just like going to the dentist, right? That you get into the routine of it and start thinking about it, and then it becomes less hard.
And then to iterate as well. So with that, where can people find you if they were interested in your services and learning more about
Absolutely.
fiduciaries? Yep.
So many things. So thebestnotary.net is the website for The Best Notary. I am also on LinkedIn. I do have on the side, drrosso.org is my personal website, but I think LinkedIn is a great place. The Best Notary has a YouTube channel with lots of really helpful videos about this topic, including the one for Max about pet trusts, which I highly recommend. So there's lots of places to connect.
And with that, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, your expertise, and sharing your experiences here. We'll end our call. Thank you.
Thank you, Niki.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.